Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. If you've seen one of my netcode analysis videos, then you know how important it is to have servers near you, as the lag that you experience in an online multiplayer game is directly affected by the distance between you and the server. In the early days of the Battlefield franchise, when the games were running on the Refractor engine, you could simply download the dedicated server files from EA's website, and then host your own unranked server on the internet or locally for a LAN party or tournament. In addition to hosting your own unranked server, Battlefield 2 and Battlefield 2142 introduced ranked servers, which you could rent from third-party hosters like Multiplayer or i3D, which had data centers in many different places around the world. So in the days of the Refractor engine Battlefield games, you could always play at very low pings on either a self-hosted server or a server provided by a third-party hoster. Also, if you were not happy with the quality of the service or the servers from one of those companies, then you could simply switch to another one, as there were plenty to choose from. Those public unranked server files that you could download to host the server yourself died together with mod support and server-side demo recording when the Battlefield franchise entered the Frostbite engine era, where PC players could then only rent ranked and unranked servers from third-party hosters, while console players could rent game servers directly from EA inside the game's menu. However, this rent-a-server program on console was terrible compared to what we had on PC. The console admin could only select the region where he wanted the server to be hosted, like Europe, while a PC admin could choose the specific data center, like Frankfurt, Amsterdam, London, etc. The PC admin could also choose between different third-party hosters, which allowed him to switch to a different one in case that he was not happy with the support or the server performance of his current one, while admins on console didn't have that choice as they were stuck with EA. But the server locations are just one of many aspects where the server rental is much worse on console than on PC. I actually made a video about this which showed how limited the server hosting on console was and still is in Battlefield 4 compared to what a PC admin can do. So for many years the console admins were begging DICE and EA for more control over their servers and more hosting locations to select from. But instead of providing console server admins with what they need, EA and DICE decided that Battlefield 1 should launch without server rental, which was a first for the PC version, as you could always pre-order your Battlefield PC server weeks ahead of the official release from the third-party hosters, so that everything was ready for your clan or community when the game released. But Battlefield 1 did not only launch without a rent-a-server program, it also launched without any official information on what EA and DICE have planned. What we got instead were rumors which created a lot of frustration, anger and fear among the community, and when DICE finally decided to share some details on the Rent-a-Server program, or RSP, then they didn't share their complete plans or vision for the program. What we heard instead was that EA kicked out the third-party hosters and provides PC servers on their own. Archon and Procon are dead, and admins won't even be able to kick or ban toxic players or hackers when the Rent-a-Server program launches sometime in November. So instead of improving server rental on console, DICE effectively brought the PC server rental down to the console level. In fact, it's worse now than the RSP program for the console version of Battlefield 4. If you want to rent a Battlefield 4 PC server, then right now you are no longer able to select a data center where you want your server to be hosted. I can only select Europe, to which I have a ping of 45 milliseconds, while when I rent a Battlefield 4 server from i3D and select Frankfurt as data center, then I have a ping of 17 milliseconds to that server. And it will be much worse for players who live further away from that Europe data center, as they can no longer choose a different data center inside of Europe, a data center which would be closer to them. Then I can't even set the password for my server, I have to pay for a 64-player server while I might only need one for 24 players, etc, etc, etc. The list of features that PC admins have lost instantly with Battlefield 1 is very, very long. This is extremely bad for the PC and console server admins, communities and clans. But what is really concerning is that neither DICE nor EA are able to share their plans for the Rent-a-Server program. I mean, I can understand that they didn't have the time to finish the new system during the development of Battlefield 1 and that they have to build it now. But you would think that they at least planned every detail of the RSP while they were building Battlefield 1, so that they could then say, sadly we are unable to offer the Rent-a-Server program on release because our focus was on having a stable launch. But here's our plan. The first release of the RSP will include these features. Then when we get into phase 2, we will add these, in phase 3 we add that, etc, etc, until we restore all the functions that PC admins had access to in the previous titles and more. This is what the communication should have been like, as that would have avoided most, if not all, the frustration, confusion and anger inside of the Battlefield community. So this is the current state of the RSP on both PC and console. Now, what I want to do is talk about the features that DICE needs to add as soon as possible to make the RSP attractive for admins and communities, because, let's face it, right now it makes no sense to spend your money on a Battlefield 1 server. So, basic features that are critical for server rental. Server locations. It's okay to have Africa, Australia, Asia, Europe, North and South America to select from, but only as top-level groups. We must be able to select a specific data center inside each of those regions where we need multiple options to select from. Also, EA sells Battlefield 1 worldwide, but there are quite a few locations which only have very few or no servers at all. I do know that it might be very hard, if not impossible, to get data centers in some locations. But if that's the case, then shouldn't the publisher and studio be obligated to clearly state where they can host servers? Because when you buy an online multiplayer game and then find out that the best server that you can connect to has 200 or 300 milliseconds, then this means that you will not enjoy that experience. This information is just as important as which graphics card or CPU you need to run the game, as that also has a massive impact on your experience. Then there's the pricing. This has to be more flexible, as not everyone needs a 64-player server. Sure, a 64-player 60Hz Battlefield 1 server costs less for a month than what I have to pay for a 64-player 60Hz Battlefield 4 server. However, when I only need one for 24 players, then I can get a 60Hz Battlefield 4 server for just €30. And when it's an unranked one, then it costs just 25. So that is quite a bit less than the €43 that I have to pay for a Battlefield 1 server, which makes it more expensive and less attractive for many clans and communities. Then there's the password protection, which is just a must-have for clans, tournaments, filming and testing. Admins must be able to kick, temp and permanently ban players, either to get rid of a hacker, a toxic player, or to make room for a member of the clan or the community that is running and paying the server. Then there has to be an option to run the server in ranked or unranked mode, where unranked allows that a round can begin when there's just one player on the server, which is required for filming and testing servers. Full control over the ticket count and round time limit is also very important for clans, tournaments, filming and testing. And lastly, admins really need a way to manage their server remotely. First step would be a web interface which allows that. So these are the basic features that are in my opinion required to get a barely functional rent-a-server program. Then there are essential features that admins and communities need, like a VIP whitelist where the admin can add all members of the clan or community so that they always get onto the server even when it's full. We also need an inbuilt version of the connection quality manager that PC admins might know from Procon. It allows admins to ensure that all players who are on the server meet certain connection quality requirements, as that has a massive impact on the performance of the server and the gameplay experience. Similar to that is the region or country lock, which has been highly requested by console server admins. Idle timeout and auto balance are also very important for clans, tournaments, filming and testing. Admins also need an app that allows them to manage their server from either their smartphone, tablet or the secondary monitor of their Windows 10 PC, similar to what admins could do with the Procon tool and the Procon mobile app. So with these basic and essential features, admins and communities have the tools they need to provide their clan or community with a functional Battlefield 1 server. However, more is required to get it onto the same level as the Battlefield 4 server rental. Now, I'm not going to list every single server option that we have in Battlefield 4, which should also be added to Battlefield 1. So I will focus on a few where I think that these are very important for the third step or phase of the rent-a-server program. Larger communities need more than one admin, so it has to be possible to add additional admins who might have limited permissions, which means that they could only be able to kick players but not ban them. They can change the map rotation but not alter settings like spawn delays, etc, etc. Everyone who ever had his own server knows that these need to be restarted from time to time to ensure that they perform well. So to automate that process, the admin should be able to say that he wants to restart the server every day at 4 AM. But the restart will only happen after the current match has ended, and the server has to inform the players that this is a planned restart so that they don't think that the server crashed. It would also be ideal to have the game auto reconnect to the server after the restart, which usually does not take very long. An option to export and import the server configuration and map rotation would be another nice feature for admins, as that will speed up the process of getting a server online or switching configurations for different events. For clans and communities, the server also has to provide an option to use custom server banners and loading screen messages that can inform the player about the rules on this server, TeamSpeak address, or other things that the player might need to know. Then we need more options that allow us to customize the gameplay experience, where some of these might cause that the matchmaking will ignore the server as it aims to provide players with the vanilla experience. So players will then have to use the server browser to find and join such a custom server which tries to provide a very specific gameplay experience. So what we need is an option to disable the dynamic weather or set a specific weather condition, which the admin should be able to set for each map separately. Then we need an option to disable the elite classes and the behemoth, as well as fine-grained control over which individual weapons and gadgets are available. Admins also need full control over bullet damage, player health, spawn time and all the other modifiers so that they can set specific values and not just choose between 50, 100 and 200%. And lastly, the admin must be able to set how many scouts, supports, medics and assaults are allowed per team, instead of just disabling the entire class, which is what you can do right now. So the admin could then set that each team can have 4 scouts, 8 supports, 8 medics and 12 assaults. Or he could set a limit for just the scouts, which means that when there are already 4, then the game will not allow you to select that class. It will tell you that the maximum has been reached, similar to how the hero selection works in Overwatch. So it's really unfortunate how the Rent a Server program has been handled so far, and it's up to EA and DICE how they want to proceed. I hope that they will be more transparent about their plans for the Rent a Server program and introduce the missing features as soon as possible, so that Battlefield 1 can provide different experiences than just the vanilla one, as Battlefield has always been about choice, and it would be a shame to see the franchise lose that too. Let me know in the comments which feature you want the most for the Rent a Server program, or if you will stick to the vanilla experience that you can get by simply using the matchmaking. Also, if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris and this was Battle Nonsense.